Hey, I'm Aaron here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. I'm here to do a little bit of demonstration with you tonight, and I hope you can stay around a while. So say hi, let me know where you're watching from. And you know who you are, you're watchers but not commenters. Yeah, you're one of those. Drop a comment in tonight, that would be awesome. And let's take a moment to just talk about this project. But this is a buffet cabinet. This was a red buffet that I painted probably, I don't know, several months ago. And it sat in my booth for a while. Either, you know, sometimes you price it just right, but you know, trends change, people like different things. So we're going with a different color. The base is burlap, 2 coats of burlap. Underneath it is the red that I painted before. And I still have all the hardware, but I thought, you know, let's do something a little different with it. I have this Dixie Natural Grasscloth. I thought, you know what, I wonder what it would look like if I put grass cloth on this top panel. This panel is, I mean, this buffet's, I would consider it traditional. Yeah, traditional. It's not MCM or anything like that, but it needs a little bit of something. I just don't want to paint it burlap. That's not my style, is to not do anything. So tonight we're gonna put these on there, the decoupage paper on there. I've got 2 sheets. I'm kind of going off a lot of trends that I'm seeing people put like rattan and other things in the panels. I know this is not real mud cloth, but I think it'd be kind of a cool effect. So notice how the colors work together really well, at least in here in person. On the screen, it might be a little red, but thank you so much for joining me for this demonstration. So again, when you purchase the decoupage paper, you're getting 1 sheet, and I happen to have 2 or 3 sheets around. The tricky part will be for us to trim it along the edge. There's a couple techniques I like to use. 1 is an X-Acto knife, and 2 is sandpaper, and we'll probably try, in fact, here's an X-Acto knife blade, brand new blade, because I want it to be super sharp. I haven't even used it once, so that's gonna be our knife tonight. So first thing you wanna do is make sure you get your base coat all done. Of course, you can paint on this, this paper, do whatever you need to do, and then we'll do a final top coat on it. Some things I would have handy. I'm going to use a misting bottle. The Dixie Belle's got the continuous spray misting bottle, so we'll use that. Also have some top coat. This is Satin. It's what I like to use for the decoupage papers. Those are the 2 things that we'll use together. And by the time we're done, we shouldn't have any problem with anything like the wrinkles, but I think you can iron this on a low heat kind of thing, but the water and the top coat will take care of this. So we're basically using top coat to apply the paper. And one thing I think I'm gonna do real quick is just take a Dixie Belle sanding sponge and just give this a nice, soft, smooth, just to really get rid of any bumps on it. If you want to, you can just do a quick wipe. But just get rid of anything that might be raised or cause any adhesion problems. Not that I expected the chalk paint alone to do that, but I did put bonding boss on there because underneath here is top coated, and I wanted to make sure that the chalk paint would stick really well, so I did do bonding boss under the burlap. So this is a pretty easy process to get on there. Trimming is probably harder than getting the decoupage paper on there. I'm gonna take a smaller Dixie Belle. Dixie Belle has these sponge brushes, and they got 3 different sizes. They got a 2-inch, I think 1.5, and then a 1-inch. Really, it's whatever size you think can do the job. And you don't have to use the sponge. You can also use a brush as well. I'm gonna use the sponge, and we're just gonna dip right in there, and we're gonna apply this. And you definitely wanna be ready to put the paper on there. But you can always lift up the paper if you need to. And I don't have to be super careful because I am ready to top coat this whole piece. So if I get top coat on parts that I don't want to, that's fine. It's gonna get top coated anyway. But don't be super shy with this, because you wanna make sure that this surface is wet and movable. Sometimes you might find that you gotta pick it up and lay it down again. So don't smooth that out too much. I'll set that to the side. I don't really have any specific location that this paper needs to go down, but it would be good if I keep it fairly straight. So let's mist this up. This just makes it a little bit more workable and also smoothable. Woo! I know you guys are like me. Butterfingers over here. Moving too fast around here. All right, let's line it up again. So now my paper's a little bit more, what do you call it? Workable. All right. Don't need to be super wet, but the wetness does allow you to kind of get it where you need to go. See how I moved down the middle of the piece of paper and then work your way out? The other thing that you could also have handy, the Dixie Belle thingamajig's kind of nice too, if you want more of a softer edge. But bottom line is something just to lightly squeegee out the air. You're not going to rip this paper. It's very durable. It's not like you're trying to squeegee tissue paper. Now, after you're done with that, now let's come back with more top coat. I'm using Satin top coat. And this is just gonna, again, keep it wet and also seal this down and top coat it. I will probably put another coat of top coat when I do the whole piece again, but this is all just part of the process. As you can see, again, I'm just applying it to the raised panel, not to the whole drawer. We'll set that to the side. So this is the fun part. So what I'm gonna do is, I wanna get a nice clean edge so I know where to trim this. The other option is to use sanding paper. And I'm just creasing along the edge. I wanted a clear, defined line. All right, so that's one way you can just, not sure if I can move around here so you guys can see. I can just run this along the edge. This is one way of doing it, but you gotta get really close. Remember, this is a brand new blade. It's cutting like butter, but you gotta make sure you're cutting on butter in the right place. Like if it's starting to go off the edge, then you might need to clean that up. And I'm doing that right there. Let's try it again on the other side. So if you have straight surfaces, this is the perfect technique. See how I'm angling the blade? I'm resting the blade up against the edge. I'm not gonna be super sad if I get off the edge, but what I am running into is the fibers a little bit. And so it's creating an okay edge, not a perfect edge. All right, so that's one way. Again, I'm just demonstrating for us today. And if you have to turn your project around to get it, you can do that as well. Dixie Belle's decoupage papers have those fibers to make it stronger. So you may occasionally run into some of those. Another way you could do this, and I've demonstrated this before, is you can cut a template out. I'm doing more of a saw cutting feel here. All right, and let me just tell you one other technique that I'm probably gonna try, is I'm gonna let the next drawer dry before I do this, because I think I'm gonna have a clearer cut with it dry. I love having a contrast of methods, but so there's either wet or there's dry. And maybe what I'll do is I'll video the dry method too, so you see the comparison. But yeah. What I'd like to see with this with you is how the finished look with the paper looks. So I'm going to take one more just look at the smoothness. Everything looks good. So you can see just from a distance how that cloth look. And right now, like I said, in person, and on camera, this looks redder than this. I don't know how it looks for you, but in here, the burlap works really well. In fact, having the burlap come through the paper is going to make the two harmonize a lot more. But I think that's kind of cool. I do have more of a shredded edge. I'm going to clean that up with it being dry. So my advice, based on my experience both ways, is I'm gonna let it dry. And then we'll have a nice cleaner edge. I might even try a little bit of distressing on this one just to go with the cloth approach. So after I let the project dry, I took some 220 grit sandpaper and I'm running along the edge at a slight angle. I mentioned also that I'm probably doing a little bit of distressing on this piece. And when you do run that sandpaper across your paint on the corner, you're going to see that there are some distressing elements. And the distressing worked really well in this project. I felt like the decoupage paper style just lent to that. And it was kind of cool because it actually showed some of the original red color underneath the project. So it all really came together. Of course, if you don't want to distress, you could touch up that chalk paint that you might get on the edge. But having the decoupage paper dry really allowed me to run the sandpaper along the edge. If not, it would have just lifted up because it was wet. You could also still, again, cut the decoupage paper with a sharp X-Acto knife while it's dry. But this worked really well, and I hope you like the finished results. Of course, you're not always going to do a custom shape with decoupage paper. And as I mentioned really quick on the previous video, I think doing a template, cutting it out, would probably work really well because while the top coat is still wet, you can move that decoupage paper around. So a template will give you probably a cleaner edge and allow you to move it around. I didn't think about that, but I've done that before and it does work out really well. But you can see here the 220 grit sandpaper cuts that paper really quickly. You may have to work a little extra harder on some of the fibers that are in the paper, but I would cut it shorter first, and so you don't have so much paper, but whatever works. I would, if you have extra paper, might even experiment with it on a smaller home decor piece or something like that. But you work with decoupage paper enough, it'll be second nature, but I really like how this all came together. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. Nice and short. Until next time, I'm Aaron here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. Take care, be awesome, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.